in taking the center panel out, one of the biggest things to do is to keep, the best things is to keep your area real clean, so you don't damage your doors. You want to take those handles off first. And then here again, like I say, you want to keep your area clean so that you don't ding up your doors. What I do in this, with this type of a door, is I actually would drill a hole and put a screw in the center to hold it in place so that it does not float around on you. Okay, what I've done now is I put a screw in here that keeps it from floating anywhere and moving away from the edge. This is your fence that you use here for your saw. This part of the saw here will right up against the fence. I made this jig by getting the distance from here to where you want to cut, the distance from the edge of your saw to your blade here. And if you can look here, I might bring the camera a little closer for that. So that will cut your, and then also you have to get your depth of your blade to go not only through this, but just a little bit into this panel here also. I want to make sure you don't put that blade too deep, because you do not want to cut through to the front side. I've seen people do that before. I've had employees that did that before. So anyway, make sure on the depth of your blade, and everything should come out just fine. So I'm going to go ahead and cut a little bit here. And then after I cut it, I'll show you how the blade is. One thing you do want to be careful on is with this type of a saw, skill saws, they have a tendency when you're cutting to want to run backwards. You do not want to cut into here. So you want to start a little bit farther ahead from this part of the cabinet so that you're not cutting into the part of the cabinet that you would see afterwards. It would not be a nice thing. So I'm going to start here. So it's going to be a little loud. As you see it down, loosen it up, went through the edge of that. Start this end. Best to let the blade stop before you pull it up. Sometimes you try to pull it up, it'll want to run on you. Let's take the screw out. There again, you want to kind of things nice and clean. Put paper down to protect your cabinet door and fronts. Down again. You can use clamps too. They work pretty good also, but my preference is the screw, because I could be throwing this away here anyway. So now we'll cut the other side here. Okay, got all four sides. Once you get that, this usually will pop out pretty easy. I use a knife here to pop the corners out. That one there could be cut a little bit closer. Good clean chisel works good here too, wood chisel. So let's go ahead and take the screw out. Pushing on the door, get it lined up. And there you go. Ready for glass. I'll take an I'll carry a lot of different colors of stain here. I will hit this with a stain on the back side here, so that when you put your glass in, you don't see the real light look here on the door. Just gives a little. I'm going to show you here on the saw and how you line the distance up from here to here. It'll be the same distance as what this is from here to the blade. I'll show you that here. If you can see that or not. So your blade is lined up from this edge to your blade, and that you're coming in right at 3/8, almost a ½ inch. Depends on the cabinet doors. So ½ inch usually gets it really good. 3/8, I usually try to start out at 3/8, and then if 3/8 doesn't handle it, then we go to ½ inch. Because now if you can see here, the blade is set up to go just not quite as deep as that groove is there, but enough to cut through the raised panel. And if you've seen your cabinets here, you have that's where your raised panel slides into, is that groove right there. And like I say, it's a floater, so usually one side here. This cabinet, actually there's 4 cabinet doors, will be receiving etched glass with just a little sliver of clear going through it. So once we get to that point, we'll go ahead and show you the glass, and then show you how to install it into the frame. What works good sometimes when you this side here is still a little bit into this wood, and so if you get out one side like that, then you just take and put it on side and give it a little tiny wrap like that. That way it will make it slide down. And we'll go through cutting one of these out again. Each cabinet door is a little bit different. I'm using shims in here right now. These shims to space it out just a little farther, so I get the cut that I want in here. It's just a matter of getting the right amount of wood out of there so that panel pops out. We'll go ahead and screw this down. These panels, I notice, are a little bit different. They're pressed wood with just a real thin skin of maple on them. Like I say, I screw them down like this here because this is just a throwaway center part here. Okay, here we go. Cutting these out, you always want to keep your eye on the saw to make sure it's running straight against the fence here. You can end up dishing it out, which you don't want to do. And again, you kind of watch your edge here where you want to come in. We're on to the second side here. You do want to keep your eye on everything because it's easy to make a mistake, and if you see the corners here go too far this way, too far that way, and it just doesn't hurt the cabinet. It just doesn't look good. It's just something that you wouldn't want to do. Boy, that one jumped. Did you see that? The end pieces are always usually pop off the easiest. This knife here, I got this knife years ago. Love it. Bought it from a supply house one time. It's used for, they sold them for lead-in windows, which it didn't really work because of the angle. But the metal goes all the way through, and actually what it is, it's a skinning knife for skinning, for butchering animals, and you skin it. And it's just so strong, it's great for doing things like this, pulling moldings off to install windows, different things like that. Thought I lost it one time, but I had a heart attack. Could be sharper, but yeah, I work most of the time. You're afraid of getting too sharp, and I hurt myself with it. Sometimes you have little deals in the corner, you use a little razor to clean up the corner. Let's take the screw out here. Let's see, the wood rods are loose today and come out easy. Okay, try the other side here. That was a little tight in the corners. Sometimes a little wet like this will help. So you have one corner drop here. So once you get that side, then you do this easily. Because a lot of these cabinet doors are not made that well. You don't want to force it too hard, because you could break this loose in here. Okay, so we got one end done here. So there again, what we do is we just take and push down a little bit, and then pop it down. Huh? Come out pretty clean, huh? There we go. You're ready to go here. Okay. Sometimes okay, so we got a little stain here. We'll see how this, try a little bit here first. See how this matches up. I just use a little piece of sponge. That looks like a pretty good match there. You can get a sponge brush from your local paint store. I just always have a sponge around here, so I just use a piece of sponge. Nothing fancy. This one here had a little bit of blue holding that panel in. Make sure you don't have stuff on the front here. This is a water base. I kind of like a water base for this because it dries quicker, and if it does get on the finish, it comes right off. It darkens up a little bit. You can put another coat on there too, but it's going to be etched glass. You're not going to see through it anyway, so you just wouldn't want that real white look to it. Okay. here. Okay, we are now going to put the silicone in the frames and install the glass. These cabinets are taking one of our more simple things, just etched glass with a slight border on it on the inside, just give a little interest. Okay, we're now going to put some silicone in here. Just a slight bead for especially flat glass like this. You don't need a whole lot. I always usually leave a spot in the center there open. And that's where, so in case you ever have to get the glass out. Okay, now we'll put this glass in there. It's already been silicone. And we're putting on the etch on the inside. That's what the client asked for. And I usually take a clean rag and push down up. That way you're not getting any silicone on the edge. Okay, we're going to run this through one more time on siliconing. You just run a small bead. Leave an opening. Don't put it more towards the outside, it works better. Leave an opening there. Okay. Here again we're putting just really simple etched glass. Everything is simple, but it's not simple, it still takes time. That's what we have here. Just want to be careful you don't get silicone all over your fingers and put it everywhere else. Take a clean towel. Okay, here we are the next day. I did them at the end of the day so that, as you see, you got a little bit of silicone right here, and that can be taken care of with a razor blade. So I'm gonna grab one here. Just you want to put your razor at an angle and go in so you don't damage the wood, and then you just come in and shave it off like so. Comes right off. This is still a little wet. It's cold here, so it's not drying as quick as it usually does. Simple as that, and that's how our backs turned out. You'll say stained it a little darker here than what original wood is. So it comes out pretty clean. There's our finished cabinet doors. And you've seen some marks in here and over here, but that's just something out of their window there.